What's up everybody, this is Ven, and I welcome you to the MOC Spotlight, where we take apart what you build. For today's episode, we'll be taking a good hard look at Terrorbyte, created and posted to Flickr by IGU. Before we get started, let me remind you of my method of reviewing, which involves a point system that is based on 3 fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the MOC, the build of the MOC itself, and the concept and ideas behind the MOC's creation. Each quality will mount up to 5 points, leading up to a final score that will be determined at the very end of the episode. And please remember that this is all based on my opinion. Alright, cool. Let's get this started. Hey, I recognize that head. You guys remember Dino Attack? The old Lego theme where there was like some militia type deal fighting a bunch of mutated dinosaur type deals? Man, that's a blast from the past. Nostalgia aside, wow, this is a really unique character. Like some type of armored dinosaur man type deal. I guess we can just start by talking about the color scheme, which consists of red, black, gunmetal, hints of purple, and hints of tan. I really like how the colors were layered in a way that suggests that underneath a bunch of gunmetal armor, there's this black and red lizard thing, and man, it just looks so cool. It's also really neat how the armor is so intricately detailed in comparison to the notably few unarmored portions, which look to be the lizard's smooth skin and whatnot. Despite this, I do kind of wish there were some more exposed parts to show off more of the lizard, but that sounds both impractical and kind of creepy. So we'll move on from that. I also really appreciate the sort of cartoony proportions that this thing has. I mean, in comparison to like an actual human figure, the placement of, say, like this guy's shoulders and his hips and his elbows and whatnot are very unorthodox, but at the same time, they don't look awkward. In a lot of cases, when it comes to humanoid figures that don't have normal human proportions, they end up looking a little awkward. And usually that's due in part to how bulky the MOC is or how slim it is. But this guy has a really unique stature and it really pulls it off quite well. Look at this fat tail. It's all one piece, but it's integrated so well and it blends in with the rest of the MOC all seamlessly and the such and whatnot. And man, look at this frickin' like weapon he has here. I don't know what this thing is supposed to be, but it looks cool. It's like some kind of big club torch thing. Now, there is one thing that kind of perturbs me a bit, and it's that if you look up here towards the chest, you'll notice that there's a lack of armor covering it up. Like, of everything else, you would think that this would be the least exposed, but, you know, if this dinosaur thing had chest hair, you would be able to see it clear as day. And then another thing is, I don't know if I really like this hand design. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a cool design, I just don't think it really fits this MOC too well. You know, when you have, like, all the proportions of the MOC are basically big and clunky, I would also think that this MOC would have some big and clunky fingers or hands too. But I'm looking at these and it's like, they're really small, the fingers are super tiny, and, you know, I just don't think this suits the MOC too well. The feet got it down, like, I really like how the feet look. And another thing that perturbs me a little bit is these weird mace pieces here right behind the knee, you know? It looks really weird. Now, in terms of the build, the fingers do this MOC a lot of favors. He's got 5 articulated fingers on each hand, and you don't often see MOCs with 5 fingers on each hand. Now, that out of the way, the rest of this MOC is also pretty well articulated. It's got articulated toes, knees, elbows, thighs, neck, sort of shoulders to a degree because it looks like they're a little restricted by all the armor. So that hand in hand with this pretty solid looking build. I mean, look at this. It can pose in various different ways and maintain its balance, and the big freaking tail doesn't interfere with that like at all. Like, this is a really well done, really stabilized figure we have here. And I also really like the arrangement of some of the parts here. Like these parts that are used on the ankles and the lower part of the abdomen. You know, these torso pieces with the purple parts inside them, these look really cool. And they do a really good job of adding some coverage along with the rest of the armor on this MOC. But you know, these in particular are like my favorite parts. But as I said, this MOC has some pretty good coverage, making this build appear cleaner, and the MOC itself just look nice and sort of polished. Man, the this whole piece is supposed to be the body for those mutated T-Rex things in the Dino Attack line that I mentioned earlier. So, you know, just knowing that, I think that was a really creative decision. And it was integrated, like, seamlessly. So, smooth moves here, champ. However, I will note that there is a lack of functionality. I mean, technically, there is a function, or gimmick, I should really say, and it's where the eyes and the tongue of the headpiece can light up. But this wasn't anything that the builder did or incorporated himself. I mean, this feature comes with the head, but, you know, I guess it is worth acknowledging it, that this guy has light up eyes and tongue. But that's about it, really. It has no launching function, he can't swing his arms around or nothing like that, so... Not that he needs it, really, but if he did have something like that, I'd say that would make him, like, way cooler. Now, the concept behind this MOC is that it was intended to be entered in the Battle for the Golden Mask contest, where builders were challenged to create something, some character that looked to be a potential Bionicle villain in celebration of Bionicle's return. And you know, unfortunately, this MOC did not win first place. Instead, that was given to Akutan, which I already reviewed like a long time ago, but keeping that in mind, I know to look at this MOC as a potential Bionicle villain, and, well, I think I can see it. It certainly looks menacing and powerful, both qualities that I would expect for what I would consider to be a formidable foe against, say, the Toa. But as far as actually seeing it in Bionicle with this aesthetic and this design, it seems a little too distinct from Bionicle's aesthetical style. I mean, obviously it's using Bionicle elements in its build, and it's incorporated all these parts and whatnot, but I think what really throws it off, and I am sorry to say it, is the whole dinosaur thing. The fact that it basically looks like a big lizard with armor. You know, it looks more like something I'd see in an average fantasy story, like maybe Lord of the Rings or something, as like part of an organic sentient race of lizard people. And with that sort of impression, I wouldn't expect to see anything like that in Bionicle. I would expect to see a giant robot-looking dude with a mask, or a giant bionic-looking creature. Pretty much all of its characters are basically just cyborgs, you know, robots with internal organs and the like. But this guy doesn't look anything like that. It just, like I said, looks like a giant dinosaur dude wearing armor. And, like, you could probably make this character in World of Warcraft or something. And, well, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. That doesn't make the MOC bad, because, you know, it still looks really cool. It's a really creative design and whatnot. But in terms of obtaining that goal to appear to be a potential Bionicle villain, I'm just not really seeing it. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But I'm not. So, that's about that. Let's go ahead and wrap things up and talk about final scores and stuff, and yeah. So in terms of appearance, this MOC receives a 4.5 out of 5. This is such a unique and natural looking MOC. It almost doesn't even look like it was built out of Lego elements or anything. It looks like it's its own separate figure. You know, it's such an original design and it's really well done. I can't even. I do have some minor gripes with it, but I'm just so impressed with its final appearance, just overall. I don't think they take away from it all too much. In terms of the build, this MOC receives a 4.5 out of 5. It's solid, well articulated, well balanced, and really creative. But I do think if there was a little bit more to offer, like an actual custom function or something like that, then I would give it a perfect score. But in the end, it's just a really well done figure. And now in terms of the concept, this MOC receives a 3.5 out of 5. It loses quite a bit of credibility here because I don't really see it as a Bionicle villain, and considering that that was the goal, you know, to enter this into a contest as a potential Bionicle villain, I feel like that's really important to nail down, and this MOC, I don't think really gets that. However, there was definitely a good amount of effort put into it. You know, it's a really creative design all in all, and I just really appreciate how unique it is and how distinctive it looks. And so, with all that said, this big lizard thingy earns a final score of 12.5 out of 15. You did a pretty great job, IGU. I'm not really sure where exactly you were going with this MOC, but it did turn out looking pretty cool. And I'm very eager to see more out of you if you come up with more ideas like this. And I'm also eager to see something out of my audience. For those of you watching, feel free to visit the message boards at board.ttvpodcast.com, where you are more than welcome to post your own creations under the LEGO Creations category and earn yourself a very high possibility of being featured on a future MOC Spotlight. So if you think you're creative enough to deserve that kind of attention, or rather any attention at all from our community on the message boards, then please, by all means, post your toast. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.